everyone, Elizabeth here. The Last Laugh delivers stories that leave you speechless if you're here for it. Hit subscribe and let's go.
The invitation arrived on a Tuesday afternoon in early December. Cream-colored cardstock with gold-embossed lettering. Dad's annual holiday dinner. The same event he'd hosted for 23 years at the Riverside Country Club. I opened it at my desk between conference calls. The formal wording was typical. Black tie. 7 o'clock. RSVP by December 10th. Then I saw the handwritten note at the bottom. Catherine, given the circumstances, perhaps it's best you skip this year. Dad. I set the invitation down. Stared at it for a full minute. My assistant knocked. Ms. Harrison? The board presentation is ready. Thank you, Jennifer. I'll be right there. I slid the invitation into my desk drawer and refocused on the $240 million infrastructure expansion we were presenting to our board that afternoon. My company, Harrison Technologies, had just closed our Series D funding round. We were scaling operations across 3 continents. Dad's holiday dinner could wait. That evening, my sister Melissa called. I was still at the office reviewing contracts. Did you get Dad's invitation? She asked. I did. So you're not coming, right? I leaned back in my chair. The note suggested I shouldn't. It's just, Dad's bringing his new business partners. The Reynolds Group. They're investing in his commercial development firm. It's a really big deal for him, Kath. Like career-defining. And my presence would somehow jeopardize that? Melissa hesitated. You know how Dad is about appearances. The Reynolds brothers are old money. Very traditional. Very image-conscious. And I don't fit the image. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying, Mel? Another pause. You're still working that administrative job, right? At that tech startup. I almost laughed. Almost. For 3 years I'd been telling my family I worked in operations at a technology company. Technically true. I operated the entire company as founder and CEO. But they'd never asked for details. Never showed interest in what I actually did. They'd decided long ago that I was the family underachiever. The daughter who dropped out of Dad's business to find herself. The sister who lived modestly, drove a 5-year-old sedan, wore simple clothes. They had no idea that my company's valuation had just hit $2.8 billion. I'm still in tech, yes, I said carefully. Right. So, you can see why Dad might want to keep the dinner focused on his success. The Reynolds brothers are worth like $400 million. They're not going to be impressed by someone who works an entry-level job. Entry-level. That's what they thought. I understand, I said. Tell Dad I won't attend. Really? You're not upset. Why would I be upset, Melissa? I don't know. You just seem different lately. More confident or something. I smiled. I'm fine. Enjoy the dinner. After we hung up, I sat in my office. The corner suite on the 42nd floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and made a decision. I wasn't going to tell them. Not yet. I was going to let them have their dinner. Their moment. Their celebration of Dad's big deal with the Reynolds Group. And then I was going to make one phone call. 3 years earlier, I'd walked away from Dad's commercial real estate firm. He'd hired me right out of business school, promising to teach me the business, and eventually make me a partner. What he actually did was assign me to administrative tasks while my brother Marcus handled client relationships and my sister Melissa managed finances. I spent 2 years making copies, scheduling meetings, and being told to observe and learn. The final straw came during a board meeting. I'd prepared a detailed analysis of an emerging technology sector, data infrastructure for smart cities. The market was exploding. I'd identified 3 acquisition targets that would position us perfectly. Dad didn't let me present. He took my report, skimmed it, and said, Catherine, why don't you go make sure the catering is set up properly? I made the catering decision that day. I decided to leave. My brother Marcus laughed when I submitted my resignation. Going to find yourself? Classic Catherine. Dad signed the paperwork without looking up. When you're ready to be serious about business, we'll talk. I took my $50,000 in savings, rented a small office, and started building. The first year was brutal. I worked 18-hour days teaching myself to code, cold calling potential clients, living on instant noodles and coffee. My family checked in occasionally, always with the same pitying tone. Still doing the startup thing? Melissa would ask. Any real job prospects? Marcus would probe. When you're ready to come back to reality, let me know, Dad would offer. I smiled and said nothing. Year 2, I landed my first major contract. A mid-sized city needed infrastructure monitoring systems. $3.2 million. I hired a team of 5. We delivered 6 weeks early and under budget. The city's CTO called her contacts. Suddenly I had 3 more cities interested. Year 3, I raised series of funding. $12 million from a venture capital firm that specialized in infrastructure technology. I hired 20 more people. Opened offices in 2 more cities. My family never asked about it. They decided I was struggling and nothing I said contradicted that narrative. I still lived in my modest apartment. Still drove my old car. Still wore simple clothes to family dinners. How's the job search going? Mom would ask. I'm working, I'd say. Well, when you find something stable, your father might have a position for you. I'd nod and change the subject. Now, 3 years in, Harrison Technologies employed 340 people across 7 countries. Our revenue last quarter was $89 million. Our Series D funding round had just closed at $240 million, led by one of the most prestigious venture capital firms in the world. And 6 months ago, I'd made a strategic investment decision. Dad's commercial development firm was expanding. He'd been talking about it at family dinners. A major retail and office complex project. $180 million total investment. He'd been courting investors for months. One of those investors was a private equity fund called Sterling Capital Partners. What Dad didn't know was that I'd quietly acquired a majority stake in Sterling Capital Partners 3 months earlier. Which meant that $95 million of Dad's project funding, the anchor investment that made the whole deal possible, was coming from me. He had no idea his daughter was his largest investor. I'd structured it carefully. Multiple shell companies. Anonymous beneficial ownership. My CFO, Michael Torres, managed the relationship with Dad's firm. Dad had never met him in person, only over phone calls and video conferences. Michael thought the setup was risky. If he finds out. He won't, I'd assured him. Not until I'm ready. I wasn't hiding out of shame. I was watching. Testing. Seeing if my family's dismissiveness would ever crack. Seeing if they'd ever actually ask about my life instead of assuming. The holiday dinner invitation gave me my answer. Even now, even after 3 years of building something extraordinary, they still saw me as the family failure. The daughter who should skip the important dinner. The sister who'd embarrass them in front of the important investors. I pulled out my phone and texted Michael. Change of plans for the Sterling investment in Harrison Development Group. 3 dots appeared. What kind of change? Full withdrawal. Draft the notice. I'll tell you when to send it. The dots appeared again. Then stopped. Then started. You sure about this? Completely. When do you want to execute? I checked the date on Dad's invitation. December 21st. During his dinner. I'll give you the exact time. The week before the dinner, Melissa called again. Hey, so, Dad wanted me to ask you something. I was in my office reviewing quarterly projections. What's that? Could you maybe not post on social media during the dinner? He's worried you might. I don't know, share something that doesn't fit the vibe he's going for. I set down my pen. Melissa, I'm not attending the dinner. I know, but you might post something anyway, right? Like about what you're doing that night. Dad just wants everything to look really polished. What exactly is Dad worried I'll post? Just, your lifestyle stuff. My lifestyle. My modest apartment. My simple life. The life they thought represented failure. Tell Dad I won't be posting anything, I said. Thanks. You're being really cool about all this. After she hung up, I sat there for a long moment. Then I called Michael into my office. The withdrawal notice, I said. Add a clause. Complete termination of all investments in Harrison Development Group, effective immediately. And include the documentation showing ownership structure of Sterling Capital Partners. Michael's eyes widened. You want him to know it's you? I want him to know exactly who his investor was. Catherine, this will destroy his expansion project. The Reynolds Group deal is contingent on the Sterling Capital funding. Without it, he'll have to explain to his new partners why his largest investor pulled out. Yes. I know. Michael studied my face. What did they do? They decided I should skip the family dinner. Because I'd be an embarrassment. He nodded slowly. When do you want me to make the call? December 21st. 7:45 p.m. Right in the middle of dessert service. The morning of December 21st, I went to my office as usual. Reviewed contracts. Attended a board meeting. Approved the final terms on a new acquisition. Jennifer brought me coffee at 3 p.m. You seem calm today. Do I usually seem not calm? You usually seem focused. Today you seem peaceful. I smiled. I'm having a good day. At 6 p.m. I left the office and drove to my apartment. Changed into comfortable clothes, jeans and a sweater. Poured a glass of wine. Ordered sushi delivery. At 6:30 Melissa posted on Instagram. A photo of the country club dining room. Candles. Flowers. The caption, Dad's special evening with the Reynolds Group. So proud. Clinking glasses sparkles. I sipped my wine and waited. At 7:15 Marcus posted. A photo of Dad shaking hands with two men in expensive suits. Big things happening for Harrison Development Group. Proud of Dad. Hashtag business success. The Reynolds brothers. Old money. Image conscious. The people I wasn't good enough to meet. I checked my phone. Michael had texted 20 minutes ago. Documents ready. Standing by for your signal. I sent 3 words. Execute at 7:45. Then I sat back and waited. At the Riverside Country Club, Dad was having the night of his life. The dinner was perfect. 40 guests. Key business partners. The Reynolds brothers at the head table, already talking about additional investment opportunities. Everything polished. Everything impressive. Marcus was networking with the Reynolds Group's CFO. Melissa was charming their attorney. Mom was showing photos of their recent European vacation to Mrs. Reynolds. Dad stood and clinked his glass at 7:35. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, he began. This has been a remarkable year for Harrison Development Group. Our partnership with the Reynolds Group represents everything we've worked toward. His phone rang. He frowned, glanced at the screen. Unknown number. He silenced it and continued. Represents our commitment to excellence, to growth, to building something that will last for generations. The phone rang again. Same number. Excuse me, Dad said, stepping away from the table. He walked toward the lobby and answered. Robert Harrison. Mr. Harrison, this is Michael Torres. Michael. Dad's mind raced. His CFO at Sterling Capital Partners. Is everything all right? I'm calling to inform you that Sterling Capital Partners is immediately withdrawing all invested capital from Harrison Development Group, effective at close of business today. Dad's blood went cold. What? The full $95 million is being withdrawn. The termination notice has been sent to your email and your attorney. All investment agreements are hereby dissolved. There must be some mistake. We have contracts. Multi-year commitments. The contracts include a clause allowing withdrawal in the event of ownership changes to the fund structure. That clause has been triggered. What ownership changes? Michael, we've been partners for 6 months. What are you talking about? Sterling Capital Partners underwent a majority acquisition 3 months ago. The new controlling stakeholder has decided to redirect investment capital to other opportunities. Dad's hand was shaking. Who acquired Sterling? The beneficial owner structure is detailed in the termination documents. I believe you'll find it illuminating. Michael, you can't do this. I have partners here tonight. The Reynolds Group deal is contingent on your funding. If you pull out. I understand the implications, Mr. Harrison. However, the decision has been made. I'm simply executing instructions. Instructions from who? I'm not at liberty to discuss that on this call. Everything you need is in the documents. I'd recommend reviewing them carefully, particularly the ownership disclosure section. The line went dead. Dad stood in the country club lobby, phone pressed to his ear, mind spinning. $95 million. Gone. The anchor investment that made everything else possible. The funding that convinced the Reynolds Group to come aboard. The money that was supposed to launch the biggest project of his career. Gone. He pulled up his email with trembling fingers. Found the message from Sterling Capital Partners. Opened the PDF attachment. Legal language. Termination clauses. Effective dates. Then he scrolled to the ownership disclosure section. Sterling Capital Partners, following majority acquisition completed on September 3rd, is now controlled by Harrison Technologies Group, with Catherine Elizabeth Harrison serving as chairman and primary beneficial owner. Dad read it 3 times. Catherine Elizabeth Harrison. His daughter. The one he told to skip tonight's dinner. The one working an entry-level job. The one who was apparently the majority owner of his largest investor. He stumbled back to the dining room. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. Dad. Marcus noticed immediately. What's wrong? Dad sank into his chair. Around the table, conversations died. Everyone was looking at him. Robert. Mr. Reynolds asked. Is everything all right? Dad's mouth opened. Closed. He looked at Melissa. At Marcus. At his wife. Did any of you? His voice was barely a whisper. Did any of you know what Catherine actually does? Melissa frowned. She works in tech. Some administrative thing. Why? Administrative. Dad let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. She's the CEO. She's the founder and CEO of Harrison Technologies Group. Silence. What? Marcus said finally. Dad's phone lit up with an email notification. He opened it mechanically. A message from someone named Jennifer Chin, executive assistant to Catherine Harrison. Mr. Harrison has asked me to forward several documents that may be of interest. Please see attached. Harrison Technologies Q3 Financial Report, Series D funding announcement and recent Forbes profile. Dad opened the first attachment. Harrison Technologies Group, Q3 Financial Report. Revenue, $89 million. The second attachment. Harrison Technologies closes $240 million Series D funding round, valuation reaches $2.8 billion. The third attachment. A Forbes article from 2 weeks ago. The 40 Under 40. Meet Catherine Harrison, the infrastructure tech CEO building the cities of tomorrow. Dad's hands were shaking so hard he could barely hold the phone. What is it? Mrs. Reynolds asked gently. Dad looked up. The entire table was watching him. My daughter, he said slowly, is a billionaire. She built a $2.8 billion company. And I told her not to come to dinner tonight because I was embarrassed by her. The words hung in the air. Melissa grabbed Dad's phone. Stared at the Forbes article. At the photo of Catherine in a corner office, confident and professional. This can't be real, she whispered. Marcus took the phone next. Read the financial report. His face went white. The Sterling Capital withdrawal, he said slowly. That was her. Dad nodded numbly. She pulled $95 million from our project? She pulled her $95 million. Apparently she's been our investor for 6 months. We never knew. Mr. Reynolds cleared his throat. I'm sorry, Robert, but I'm not sure I understand. Your daughter funded your expansion project. Anonymously. Through a shell company structure. She owns the private equity fund that's been our partner since June. And you didn't know? I thought she was working an entry-level job. The silence was excruciating. Mrs. Reynolds spoke carefully. The Harrison Technologies? That Harrison? My daughter's company uses their infrastructure monitoring systems. We have a presentation from them next quarter for our Smart City initiative. Dad closed his eyes. Mr. Reynolds checked his phone. Robert, I'm going to need to make some calls. If your primary investor has withdrawn. I understand. Dad's voice was hollow. We'll need to reassess our involvement. Without that anchor funding. I understand, Dad repeated. The Reynolds brothers stood. Politely made their excuses. Left the table. Within minutes, half the guests had found reasons to leave early. Dad sat alone at the head table, his phone full of messages from his attorney, his accountant, his partners, all asking the same questions. Marcus sat down across from him. Dad. How did we not know? She never said. She had to have said something. You don't build a billion-dollar company in secret. She told us she worked in operations at a tech company. We decided that meant entry-level. We never asked for details. Melissa was crying. I told her she'd embarrass you. I said she wasn't impressive enough for the Reynolds brothers. Mom spoke for the first time. When did she build this? When did any of this happen? The company's 3 years old, Marcus said, staring at the Forbes article. She left Dad's firm 3 years ago. We thought she was struggling. We decided she was struggling, Dad corrected quietly. She never actually said that. His phone rang. Jennifer Chin again. Dad answered. Hello. Mr. Harrison, I have Miss Harrison on the line. She'd like to speak with you. A click. Then Catherine's voice. Come. Professional. Hi, Dad. Dad's throat closed. Catherine. I'm not calling to discuss the investment withdrawal. That's a business decision. Michael will handle any questions through proper channels. Then why are you calling? Because I wanted you to know something. For 3 years you've assumed I was failing. You've treated me like I was lost, struggling, unable to understand your world. Tonight, you told me to skip your dinner because I'd embarrass you. Dad couldn't speak. But I've been watching the whole time. I've been successful. Wildly successful. And I never told you because I wanted to see if you'd ever actually ask. If you'd ever show real interest in my life instead of deciding what my life was. Catherine, I'm so sorry. I'm not looking for an apology right now. I'm just telling you why I made the business decision I made. You can't treat people like they're worthless and expect them to keep investing in your success. What can I do? Dad's voice broke. Tell me what I can do. Right now. Nothing. I need time. You need to figure out your business situation. And maybe think about why you made the assumptions you made about me. I love you. You know that, right? A long pause. I know you think you do. But love asks questions, Dad. Love pays attention. I've been building something extraordinary and you never even noticed. The line went dead. Dad sat at the empty head table, his holiday dinner in ruins, his business deal collapsing, staring at the Forbes photo of his daughter. The daughter he'd told not to come. The daughter who'd been quietly funding his dreams while he dismissed hers. Marcus put a hand on his shoulder. What do we do? Dad didn't answer. Because for the first time in his life he genuinely didn't know. The next morning, Dad's attorney called at 6 a.m. Robert, we need to talk about the Sterling Capital situation. Dad was already awake. He hadn't slept. Go ahead. Without that $95 million, the entire project timeline is compromised. The Reynolds Group has sent notice that they're reassessing their commitment. 3 of your other investors are asking for meetings. I know. We need to find replacement capital immediately. If you can reach out to Sterling, explain the situation. The controlling owner of Sterling is my daughter. Silence on the line. You're Catherine. Yes. The one you said worked in. I was wrong. Very wrong. More silence. I'm going to need some time to process this. You're not alone. By noon, Marcus had compiled a full report on Harrison Technologies. Revenue projections. Growth trajectory. Client list. Staff size. He brought it to Dad's office. She has 340 employees. Offices in 7 countries. Her client list includes 12 Fortune 500 companies and 43 municipal governments. Dad stared at the numbers. Dad, she's been more successful than you. I know. In 3 years. She built more in 3 years than you've built in 25. I know, Marcus. And we treated her like she was failing. Dad closed his eyes. I know. That evening Melissa tried calling Catherine. The call went to voicemail. He tried texting. No response. She tried emailing. Auto reply. Catherine Harrison is currently unavailable. For business inquiries, please contact Jennifer Chin at. She's blocked us, Melissa told Mom. She has every right to, Mom said quietly. What do? We wait. And we think about what we did. By the end of the week, the Reynolds Group had formally withdrawn from Dad's project. 2 other investors followed. Dad's $180 million development plan had collapsed to $62 million. The project was dead. His attorney suggested bankruptcy protection. His accountant suggested selling the firm. On Christmas Eve, a package arrived at Dad's house. Inside was a framed photo. Catherine at age 12 at the science fair. She'd built a model of a sustainable city infrastructure system. Dad had missed the fair for a business meeting. There was a note in Catherine's handwriting. I've been building cities my whole life. You just never looked. Dad sat on his couch holding the photo and cried. 3 months later. I sat in my office reviewing a new acquisition proposal when Jennifer buzzed me. Miss Harrison? Your father is here. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's asking if you have a few minutes. I'd known this was coming. Eventually. Send him in. Dad looked older. Thinner. He walked into my office like he was visiting a foreign country. He stood in front of my desk. Looked around at the corner suite. The floor-to-ceiling windows. The awards on the wall. Impressive, he said quietly. Thank you. I've been trying to reach you. I know. I deserve that. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. He sat. We looked at each other. I owe you the biggest apology of my life, he said. You do. I was blind. Arrogant. I decided who you were without ever asking. I treated you like you were less than, when you were building something I couldn't even imagine. I said nothing. The dinner invitation. Telling you to skip it. That was. He stopped. There's no excuse. No. There isn't. I've spent 3 months thinking about why I did what I did. And I think I was threatened by you. Even when I thought you were struggling, part of me knew you were different. Smarter. More capable. And instead of celebrating that, I diminished it. You made me feel worthless, I said quietly. For years. Every family dinner, every phone call, you and Marcus and Melissa treated me like I was the family disappointment. I know. And I kept showing up. I kept being kind. I kept hoping you'd ask. Just once. Catherine, what are you working on? Catherine, tell me about your life. But you never did. Dad's eyes filled with tears. I'm asking now. I leaned back in my chair. It's a bit late for that. I know. But I'm asking anyway. Tell me about your company. Tell me everything I missed. So I did. I told him about the first year. The 18-hour days. The instant noodles. The cold calls. The first contract. The moment I realized this might actually work. I told him about the growth. The hiring. The scaling. The Series A round. The Series B. The international expansion. I told him about the board meetings where investors called me visionary. The Forbes interview. The awards. The speaking engagements at conferences where people lined up to ask my advice. I told him about the night I acquired Sterling Capital Partners. How I'd structured it carefully. How I'd decided to invest in his project not to save him, but to see if success would change how he saw me. It didn't, I said. Even with my money funding your dream, you still saw me as the failure. Dad wiped his eyes. What can I do? How can I fix this? I don't know if you can. Please. Let me try. I thought about it for a long moment. You want to fix this? Then actually see me. Not who you thought I was. Not who you wanted me to be. Actually see who I am. What I've built. What I'm capable of. I'm seeing it now. Now that you have to. Now that I pulled funding and destroyed your project and humiliated you at your dinner. But I shouldn't have had to do that for you to respect me. You're right. You shouldn't have. I stood. Walked to the window. Looked out at the city. I have a board meeting in 20 minutes, I said. Dad stood. Of course. Thank you for seeing me. He walked to the door. Paused. Catherine. Yes. Are you happy? With what you've built? I turned and looked at him. Really looked at him. I'm proud of what I've built. Every day. I look at my team, my clients, my company, and I'm proud. That's something I never felt at your firm. He nodded. You deserved to feel that way. You deserved parents who made you feel that way. Yes. I did. He left. I stood at the window for a long time after he was gone. 6 months after that, Dad sold his firm. He couldn't rebuild it after the Reynolds deal collapsed. He took the buyout and retired. He called me the day he signed the papers. I wanted you to know, he said. It's done. How do you feel? Relieved. Honestly. I was chasing something I didn't even want anymore. What did you want? I wanted to prove something. To myself. To my father. He always said I'd never amount to anything significant. I spent my whole life trying to prove him wrong. And you did the same thing to me. Pause. Yes. I did. Are you going to be okay? I asked. I think so. Your mother and I are talking about traveling. Maybe I'll figure out what I actually enjoy doing instead of what I think I should be doing. That sounds good. Catherine. Yeah. I'm proud of you. I know I should have said that years ago. But I'm saying it now. I'm so proud of you. I felt tears in my eyes. Thank you. Will you Would you have dinner with us sometime? Your mother and me. Not a family event. Not with Marcus and Melissa. Just the three of us. Maybe. Eventually. I'll take maybe. We hung up. I sat at my desk and cried. Not from sadness. From release. From finally hearing the words I'd needed to hear. A year later I did have dinner with my parents. Just the three of us. At a quiet restaurant. No agenda. No performance. Dad asked questions. Real questions. About my company. My vision. My challenges. My goals. Mom listened and smiled and said, I wish we'd asked these questions 3 years ago. Me too, I said. It wasn't perfect. We weren't magically healed. The hurt of those years didn't disappear because of one conversation, one apology, one dinner. But it was a start. Marcus reached out eventually. Apologized. Asked if he could tour my offices. I said yes. He walked through, met my team, saw what I'd built. I should have believed in you, he said. Yes. You should have. Can I make it up to you? You can try. Melissa took longer. Her apology came in a letter. Handwritten. Honest. I was jealous, she wrote. Even when I thought you were failing, I was jealous of your freedom. Your willingness to try. I played it safe. I stayed in Dad's shadow. And I resented you for being brave enough to leave. I called her after I read it. I forgive you, I said. She cried. Really? Really, Pamel? Next time someone you love is building something, ask them about it. Pay attention. Don't assume you know their story. I will. I promise. Today Harrison Technologies employs over 800 people. Our valuation topped $4.2 billion last quarter. We're building infrastructure systems in 43 countries. I still drive a modest car. Still live simply. Still wear comfortable clothes to work. Not because I'm hiding. Because that's who I am. The difference is now my family knows who I am too. And I didn't have to prove it at a holiday dinner. I proved it in the quiet work of building something extraordinary.